we'll come on in here and sit down and on in and just going in and shut this door and then I come back out and get my can. Over on that side of the road, right? All right, I've got my buddy here, Mike with me, Mike Muncy with me, and I'm glad he's here with me. I know he stays busy. Mike, I know when you come in here, you're thinking, this is a storage shed, right?
I'm just super impressed how organized everything is. I mean, if it was mine, there would just be junk everywhere.
We call this program Just from the Shed. Mm-hmm. And it's literally...
in a shed.
I've done 60 interviews in a shed.
Yeah.
Okay, it's actually just from the shed, okay? Mm-hmm. This was a building I used to have my Harley in, and Dwayne got my Harley, so all I got is old man tools. And but I work hard. You have to organize it because you got so much stuff.
It's a good job.
You know what I mean? You get stuff. And then what I found, one of the keys I found, I use that blue tape a lot. And I write on the side of them containers what's in it. Because, you know, your 100-foot ruler and your 200-foot ruler, you're always looking for them.
Right.
Okay? And you can't remember where in the world, because you don't use them but about 3 times in your lifetime. And you think, what did I do with that big ruler? So I've got now to where I write on it. Okay, this is what's in this box. Hardware, nails, bug spray, whatever, battery chargers. I've collected up battery chargers. I bet I got 6 battery chargers somehow.
That's a great job.
But I start collecting them. You know what I mean? I get them and then they go on sale and I figure I have to buy it because it's on sale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I do it. I buy them along but I have seemed to have collected. And then I use that tape like if a battery is going to be bad, I write could be bad. And then this one right here, I write, it says so-so. This one don't work real good. So-so. And, you know, it's funny. What you do, you start organizing when you get old. If you'd done that when you was young, can you imagine how much better off you'd be?
It'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
If you went ahead and organized, but you don't. You just, my dad said it's wasted on young people. Youth is. He always used to tell me. But anyway, I've immersed a bunch of stuff. So this will make it a lot easier when I die for them to sell my stuff.
It will be.
Because see, they'll just drop it.
All they need is a sign outside.
They'll drop it out there. Here's the box. Electrical, $4. Sold.
No, you use the blue tape and just write a price tag on it.
That's what I tell them all the time. I say, if you want to find out what your stuff is worth, all you got to do is go to an estate sale.
Yeah.
And what you think is so valuable, it's junk, ain't it?
Yeah.
It really is. It really. Well, again, I'm glad to have my buddy Mike here with me. Mike, how old are you?
I'm 62.
62.
I'm over 50.
I was thinking you was a lot older than me, but man, you're young.
I remember you in school.
You're just a young buck, ain't you?
Yeah.
62. That's really good. That's Social Security age. That's a good age.
I remember the ones that were good to me, extra good to me, and the ones that was extra bad to me. And you was the extra good to me, so I remember you.
I remember, I used to think we shared a lot growing up. But when growing up, I remember I shared with Daryl Nipper. His nippers was hard to fight with.
I remember Daryl very
okay,
well, yeah.
And because there were several of them, they joined together. When you get a fight with one, you get in a fight with several. Mm-hmm. And I still owe them some whippings. And but I'm trying to live better, but I'm not saying a man shouldn't give it back sometimes, but I'm trying to do better. Michael, tell me about, when we talk about growing up, where did you grow up at?
I grew up in Moore, Sao Paulo.
Okay.
Yeah. Out on a dirt road, gravel. I remember when we first got telephones.
All right.
And I remember spring water being piped into the house. Mm-hmm. Remember having an outhouse, but never using it. You know? Right. By the time I came along, we actually had indoor plumbing and everything like that.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, wasn't it?
I remember cable TV and 4 channels.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You remember having to turn the antenna?
I remember that well, yeah.
You have to go outside while somebody yell at you so you could get the antenna pointed just right.
I think we had one of the first color TVs in the area. And
yeah.
And you're trying to get channel 6.
Yeah.
Hey, but when the airplane went over, for just a couple of minutes, you had good, clear picture.
So you grew up in Shop Holler. What are some memories that stand out in your mind in Shop Holler growing up? What are some things that stand out in your mind?
Just so much. You know, everything was so more relaxed. You know, you never had to lock your doors. You can go to bed with the door open right beside of you, the window. It's just so much safer and relaxed, and everybody was friends. I remember people showing up to borrow sugar, a cup of milk, those kind of days. You know, like you read about in the 50s. That's what we went through when I was raised in the 70s. It was everybody knew everybody, and everybody called you friends, like the song says. And it was a great time, and we never a dull moment.
Yeah, you know, it seems like you could entertain yourself.
You could
somehow easier. I don't know why, but I did. It seemed like I could entertain myself with a hatchet in the mountains all day easier.
And we had everything we needed except for level ground.
There was no level ground.
You know, when you go out somewhere the ground was level, you didn't walk exactly straight, you know, because one leg kind of grew a little longer than the other one.
That's the truth. I remember that too. I mean, if you was in War or McDowell County and you seen a couple acres of flat ground, you was something else.
Right.
It was usually a riverbed.
Right.
Okay.
Or something the coal mines was doing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, they was going to use that land if it was available.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of times that when we was growing up, you know, times when I would leave and go someplace and see flat highway. I thought, man, we wouldn't have a motor left in McDowell County if we had this much straightaway. We'd blowed every motor up, wouldn't we?
That's right.
If you'd have thought all we had was Buchanan Dip, we had it for a good straightaway, and then up there at Big Auger, straightaway up there. You know, you could go up there. It's a pretty good straightaway. You could pass the car up there, but there wasn't many straightaways around. You could go on.
Funny story when me and my cousin Leroy, you know Leroy well, we were teenagers, probably 14, 15 years old, and we were riding our motorcycles. We went across over into Slate Creek, and when you get all the way down to Race Sale, it's kind of straight down through there, you know.
Right.
And we ride down through there, and there's some girls standing there, and you know we was going to be all cool on these motorcycles, and we rode by, and we turned back, and we're going to smile at these girls when we go back by. So we get up to these girls, and we got a little bit too close to each other, and the foot pegs on our bikes caught each other, and we wrecked right in front of these girls. Now, here's these two boys from Shop Hollow, as backwards as can be, laying on the ground right in front of these girls. So we just got on our bikes as quick as we could and got across that mountain and back home, you know. We got away from there.
Man. Well, I think about that growing up. You know, everybody has different experiences and things they remember and stuff like that. And it stands out, you know, when you think about Shop Holler.
Yeah.
When you think about Shop Holler, I always thought about Shop Holler when I thought about it was sleigh riding.
Yeah.
Because, man, you could walk to the top of the holler and come out of there, couldn't you? But you have to walk all the way back up.
But you know what the name of the biggest hill up there was, don't you?
What was it?
Dash Hill.
Yeah, I remember. That's what, Tom was telling me about the other day. We was talking about, remember riding on sagebrush when you could get on an old hill when the grass got dry and a piece of cardboard and you think about those type of things. Man, it was fun.
We used to ride trees over it too.
Yeah.
Take a sapling tree that's so big and you go all the way to the top and then you ride it all the way down till your feet hit the ground.
Yeah.
Just anything we could do to
you remember the overflowing well up there?
I do.
I mean, everybody go up there and get water, didn't they?
Yeah.
That was an artesian well.
Across from Frank Muncy's.
Yeah, you go up there and get water out of that all the time. And I remember up front of Hobart Cook's house, a little place you could swim up there.
Yeah.
Then started baptizing people.
A lot of baptisms, yeah.
You baptized people forever, but I can remember swimming in there when I was a boy. You go up there and swim.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good place to swim. Mm-hmm. And man, I remember that's gone now. Every bit of that up there is. Every bit of that's gone.
We left church one night and we went there to have a baptism. They took the light and there was snakes everywhere.
Yeah.
They didn't care. They went right on down into the water, you know.
Oh,
I guess
man.
if you can handle them, you can baptize them.
I reckon it makes sense to me. It makes it all interesting.
Yeah, we used to take old pieces of metal and different things to go to the top of these mountains and ride through the leaves, ride them all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
It's too much work now.
Oh, man. I remember when we used to be able to get in the snow and get a good coal shovel. Mm-hmm. Man, you could sit on the coal shovel and ride that thing down the hill somewhere. It was I don't know, man. You think about it, if my grandkids did that now, my son and daughter, they'd fall over and have a heart attack.
Oh, yeah.
If they seen them coming down the hillside up here on a shovel.
On a shovel.
I was talking the other day with Priscilla. We were talking about parents and talking about different stuff.
On the side of the house that we grew up in there, my mom and dad, it was a little steep, but the cars would go, and when they would spin their wheels, it would melt the snow a bit, and the snow would freeze back into ice.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and people would take their hard bottom shoes, the slippers or whatever, and they would just run and just stop and ride those shoes all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if we knew that you could do such a thing in the Olympics, you know, it's hard to tell how many gold medals we might have.
We used to, you know, when we went to school over there at the grade school, you know, in the wintertime, you know, it'd be slick on the playground. Man, we'd love to run and slide on that ice and do that. Man, and hit your head on the seesaw and the monkey bars all the time. I know I've got a lot of knots from stuff like that.
I still remember people falling off those monkey bars, and
Ooh.
and you know, it seemed like it was all so big now, but then it was huge, you know, because we were so small.
Right. When you think about growing up, okay, who are some people when you think young that really influenced your life and really helped mold you and shape you?
There's so many of us. There was probably, and you know, there's a message I've actually been working on to teach in churches on family. Family is not always blood, and even the ones who wasn't blood to us was still like family to us, and no matter what, we was always together doing things.
Right.
And everybody had, my brother Eddie had 5 or 6 his age group that stayed together from the holler, and then I had, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 my age group, and then my brother Tommy all the way down. We all had that many, because everybody had big families.
Yeah.
And we all had friends of that age group, and they was probably, you know, when I was in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they was probably in the same classroom, you know, 5, 6, 7 of us from the holler together.
Yeah, together.
That was either closely related or the same as related.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it seemed like we all always got along. If you know, if we fought, it was playing fight.
Right.
You know, it was nothing serious. Nobody ever was mad at each other. No feuds or anything like that. You know, it was just everybody got along, and we always had each other's back. We taught each other how to do, you know, to hunt and play sports or whatever we did at the time.
Yeah. Well, then tell me this: when we talk about this thing, we talk about together and growing up. I mean, have you always been at the foot of the cross, or has there been any times in your life maybe you could see the cross a little better from where you was?
Well,
and you know, I mean,
since my sisters and my wife might be watching this, I've always been at the foot of the cross.
This is what I say sometimes. Okay, I say I wasn't always as close to the cross as I should have been, but I could always see it from where I was.
Yeah.
So that makes you, sort of gives you a cover.
Never beyond the prayers of the ones that was there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Pulling you back. You know.
I like anytime I feel good excuses, I feel the Spirit. Okay.
Have you seen those leashes that people's got? They'll let the dog go out, and when it goes too far, they push a button.
Pull it back. Yeah.
And that's the way I was. If I got a little bit too far, I had people praying for me to pull me right back.
Yeah. And that is such a blessing, and so many people don't have that.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you don't think about that, but so many people, you know, don't have anybody praying for them.
You're exactly right.
Okay, I mean, they really they don't have anybody praying for them.
And this is a thought. It's really hard to be a first-generation Christian.
Right. Yes.
When you ain't got that example to follow, you know, or that person to praying for you constantly. You're the one that has to pave your own road, set your own standard, and it's a good thing that we got God to walk with us, you know.
Right. But, you know, when you really have support, okay, and I mean, you know, and support good, support bad, you know, it's good to have somebody that cares about you a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've said it so many times because I've seen some people who don't have anybody. Okay, they really, when you take a look at their life, they don't have anybody.
Yeah, and things was different then. You know, we got a lot of secondhand Bible. We didn't actually have to read it ourselves, but people's conversations today is a lot about sports or politics or things. It wasn't like that then. People's conversations then was the Bible.
Right.
And I learned so much listening to my dad and Steve Hagerman and Burley and Claude Perkins and different people just constantly. When they got together, they would talk for hours. Matter of fact, you know, going in Shop Hollow, there was only certain places you could actually pass another car.
Right, right.
And when you got to that place and you sit there and if somebody had to back up or something, you sit there, you know, an hour, because they're going to be talking about the Bible.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And you know, you get that secondhand information, but still good. It's meat that's going to come back to you later on down the road. And you're hearing all this, and that's the way that we grew up. We didn't grow up hearing gossip or anything like that. We heard when people, their conversations then was about God, and it's the way it should be today.
Well, I think, I've said this before. There's things that are, for me, and as a general rule, I've found so many times in life that your good times will make you lazy.
Yeah.
Okay. I've said this, and I said this the other day, and you can go with me either way on this. I believe the devil has brought more people to church than God's people. Here's why. I think that what happens is if the devil had any brains, he'd leave you alone. He'd leave you alone on your path and leave you alone, let you skip along your merry way.
Right.
But when he pokes at people, God's people, and he pokes at people, then their part of them turns back to the Lord that they don't even know about. Okay,
Right.
They begin to turn back. Whereas if he would just leave them alone, they would. Many of your good times tend to make you lazy, but these challenges that we have tend to make us strong.
Right, and the way he works is like if you constantly told your competition where they was weak and where their errors are, they would try to size up.
Right.
If you're a football team and you told the other football team constantly your receivers are weak, your defense is weak or something, and you made them constantly better, then they're going to try to size up. But what the devil wants to do is tell you you're good already.
Right.
You're okay like you are.
Yeah.
And by telling you when you're not okay like you are, that you are okay like you are, then you relax.
Right.
And once you relax and get at ease, then you're at that point where you're never trying to strive to do better or get better. Just like this building we're in. Look at this organization. What if you just had thrown everything in here?
Right.
The contents of this building would still be the same.
Right. Just being a pile, wouldn't it?
Just being a pile. Unorganized.
Right.
And the first words that's recorded that God's ever spoke is, let there be light. And if you seek the interpretation of that saying, it says, let everything come to order.
Yeah.
Everything in its box.
Yeah.
Everything in its place, like it's supposed to be.
Well, let's take it a step farther. Why do we need order? So when you need something, you can get it. Okay? The only thing worse than having things, I've said this before. I told somebody, I said, I'm going to buy, for a couple of years, I said, I'm buying these Japanese tools.
Yeah.
And when I use them, I'm going to throw them over the hill after I'm done. So that way I don't think I have tools next time I go to work on something.
Right.
Okay? And I did that a little bit. But now I get them a little better tools. But anyway, I think about this. So what happens is, like you're saying, is if we organize our life. See, I believe either you run your life or your life will run you.
Right.
Okay? That's why I've always, with my kids, I've always stressed to have a plan. Have you a 5-year plan? Have you a 1-year plan? Have a plan. Change your plan if you want to.
Right.
But you got to have a plan in order to see where you're at.
Never get out of the rut without a plan.
So same thing what we talk about in life. With our life, if we can organize our life and be careful with it. And now that doesn't mean that we don't go through things, okay? I mean, life is a journey, man. And there's stuff that happens and things that you go through. And so many things are easier to say than they are done. I got all that figured out, okay?
Right.
But what happens is, it seems like in life there's things we go through, but if we can, I shared this the other day, and we'll take this a step farther, all right? I was sharing with somebody the other day, I said, say you don't believe in the Lord.
Right.
You don't believe in heaven, you don't believe in hell, you don't believe in none of it. If you would still understand, if you'll take the principles of that Bible and use them like a handbook on your life, it'll teach you how to handle your finances, how to handle your children, how husbands and wives should handle each other. It'll teach you what to eat. It'll teach you all these things in your life. If you'll just look at it and say, hold on a second, all right, I don't believe in anything, but I'm going to look at this and I'm going to leaf over to the section that says children. I'm going to leaf over to the section that says, man, you can apply the principles whether you believe them or not.
They still work.
They'll still work, man.
Yeah.
That's fascinating, ain't it?
It is.
That really is. I think about that. All right, well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about children. Do you have any?
Yes. I have a ton. and what you just said, applying the principles where you believe it or not is
Right.
like eating food. Even
Right.
if you don't like the taste, it's still going to nourish you.
Yeah. Yeah, it still works.
It still works. Yeah.
Even a cookie works if you don't believe in it.
Right. I believe in cookies, though.
Yeah, my firm. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. Before we talk about children, I'm telling you, and I've never experienced much of the crack or the heroin or things like that, but sugar, I'm telling you,
Powerful drug.
sugar is a heck of a thing because, I mean, and, you know, I talk to people, and I've got some friends that are a little rough on the oxy and some different things that have a little hard time with it, okay? And I don't say anything. I don't say anything about it because this is the deal. I have enough trouble not eating the Chips Ahoy cookies. So I imagine how I'd be if I was taking me oxy twice a day, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, people don't know. I mean, I can imagine how hard this is, you know, and you know, said one time my grandpa was pretty tough on it. He said one time, I wish God would send this down with Dad. He said, I wish God would send down lightning on all these drug addicts. And Dad stopped him. He said, be careful, old man. You might lose somebody we love. He said, so you don't know, okay? I mean, it's tough. Right. And these things are tough on you people and tough on our bodies. And I don't know, man. I'm fascinated. I think about that a lot, and I think about those things. And listen, when I go through Hardee's in the morning, I want one of those cinnamon raisin biscuits so bad I can't hardly stand it. I mean, I could shoot it in my vein if I could get it. You know, shoot one if this I get it in a 2-pack. And then I think, I fight it, okay? Yeah. Now, sometimes I don't always fight it. About once a week, I give in to the temptation. But, I mean, I do pretty good if I feel like if I make it 6 or 7 days. I mean, 6 days anyway. But, I mean, there's things that addictions and things that get hold of you like that are rough on you.
Right.
They really are. Well, children, let's get back to children. You said you had, like, 20 or how many you had?
Somewhere around that range, last count. I got really good kids.
Good.
Of course, we own Muncy Motors, and I've turned that over to them. And,
right.
A lot of people still call me, but I refer them up there. And,
right.
7.5 years ago, my son come to me and he said, Dad, do you think we could start a car dealership? And I said, well, if everything was just perfect, we can do it.
Yeah.
He said, how much would it take? That's $20,000 probably just to get you started. Mm-hmm. He went and borrowed on a title $16,000.
Right.
And that was in, I think, May of 2017, maybe. And he borrowed that much money, and he took that much money, and through a friend, we contacted Old Hickory Buildings. They set us up in Princeton, and we started selling buildings over there. In the meantime, he said, what about the cars? I said, well, we'll pray about it, and if we can get a floor plan, we'll do cars. He said, okay. So he applied for the floor plan and was approved.
Yeah.
So he took that, and we struggled really hard for a few months with no income whatsoever, and struggled really, really hard where it got to the point that, it's not going to work. And God blessed us with a huge month. So 27 buildings in 1 month, which is huge.
Lord.
7 in one day. And that carried him over and up to where the car started selling. And the rest has pretty much been history. We've been able to buy the location where he's at up there now. And they've learned a lot working there. And, and they're not going to get rich. But, it keeps them going.
Yeah, I figure if you got more blue jeans than you can wear, you're already rich.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah.
More shoes, more blue jeans. It's junk we can't never touch.
Right.
And we're rich, and then, we can talk about family and being rich, and I understand all that, but I'm telling you, sometimes, I don't know, it's easy to lose track of stuff and become so fixed on stuff that we lose track of the important things.
It really is.
It really, man, I'm telling you, there's times that it really is. I don't know. I look at it and think about it a lot, and I run into stuff, and I don't know. I think of how we can lose track. We get to looking at life, and we can really lose track of what's really important in life. So when you think about, if I come to you today and said, "Listen, Mike, tell me this. What could you do? What if tomorrow I said I'm gonna pick you up at 9 o'clock? I don't pick you up real early. 9 o'clock, and we're going to do whatever makes you happy." What would it be?
You don't have to pick me up. Just give me my remote control. And let me see what's on the History Channel on YouTube.
Right. Well, I'm telling you, it's such a window into stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I catch myself like that a lot, okay? And something I want to learn about, I'll flip over to YouTube, and I'll search it. I say, I'd like to know how to do that, and I'll look for it.
You learn so much.
I mean, listen, man, I pick up on stuff, and listen, I've got friends out there that don't like the Japanese TikTok, and I understand completely. I mean, if you don't like something, I understand completely. Now, but a lot of things I cook, I get off TikTok. I'll go on there and I search. It's all what you use things for.
That's where I get my news.
I mean, I find stuff. I mean, a hammer can be a real problem if it falls. All right, let's take things that can be a problem if you don't know about it. Yeah. Yesterday, I was on a ladder, and I come off that ladder backwards and hit the ground like a ton of bricks. And I fall off ladders a lot. Okay, and I hit the ground up there. A ladder can be a real problem if it's not used right.
Right.
Okay, so it's the same thing when we talk about stuff like TikTok and we talk about Facebook and YouTube and all these things. It's according to how you use something,
right?
And take stuff and use it. And like you're talking about, man, you can, and I can find myself if I'm not careful. I won't leave the house. I start watching things and I do things instead of going out and do it. And then I try to force myself to make sure I leave, and go do stuff and get things and travel and go places and do those things. And that's just what I do.
Whenever I cook a dish of anything I make, I'll practice several times, and I'll study it. Right. I'll watch different people make it.
Right.
I'll think about it, and then I'll make it the way I want it. And the first time might not be right.
Right.
I might think, I need to change it this way, but after a couple of times, I got it the way I want it.
I have versions, okay? And I've got another project I'm working on. I'm into version 4. Okay, because I'll be later and I get to thinking about it, and I get to thinking, well, I could do it like this. Now I have trouble, and it seems like you are not like this, but I have trouble with a written recipe sometimes. Okay, I mean, I'm not as good at following it. I've got buddies that have wrote cookbooks and stuff like that, and now Janice follows everything to the letter. She's down the line with it. Okay,
but you can never invent anything new by following somebody else's
I know. I like to play with it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I enjoy playing with it. I like cooking and playing with it and fooling around with it. And now I'll tell you this, what I did. I didn't cook at all. How long have you been cooking? When we talk about cooking.
Probably seriously just the last 5 years maybe.
See? Is that dadburn COVID? COVID did it to you. Did it to me too.
Yeah, I just found joy and peace in it. Relaxing.
I tell you what I found. And I didn't cook until COVID, okay? Till COVID come. COVID affected my wife different. She never tested positive, but it caused her not to find the pans and the skillets anymore. She's disoriented by it. But now it caused me, I started cooking, and I shared this before. I watched a guy on there called Drunk Steve, okay? Yeah. And he cooked all the time. And he would go places and he would camp out underneath a billboard, and he would camp out in a drainage line. He would do stuff. Anyway, when he got there, he'd pull out this Coleman stove. And he would pull out a little bit of beef roast and some potatoes and carrots. And he just cooked. And I said, man, if he could do that. So then what I done is started cooking. And I found, like, I tell you what I found. I found completion. When I cook something, I cook it and I find it's like I actually completed something. Right. And with my work and what we've done with television is never finished. Okay, you turn it on, it's on 24 hours a day. Okay, right. It's always going. It's never something that's finished. But I found completion.
Right.
That makes sense. What do you really like to cook?
The thing that I'm most famous for, I guess, or you have to call it famous.
Infamous.
Most known for. It's things that I can package in small boxes, right? Like the pepperoni rolls. My pepperoni rolls I crave them myself.
Right.
They're really, really good. And the cinnamon rolls, because I can package those in small packages, but I can make a lot of different things, a lot of country food. And like you said, I can taste it and know what to put in it. Right. I can taste it in my imagination. Right. I think it needs this, this, and this. Put it in there, and it comes out good. Or if I try somebody else's recipe, I say, don't worry about that. Let me add this.
Right.
And make it my own and change it differently. But the pepperoni rolls are really good. I can make really good pizza.
The challenge I have is cooking in small portions.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm really working on it. And I tell you what's helped me a lot. I bought me a 2-quart crock pot for $10 from Walmart.
Right.
And I cook in smaller portions. I make sure instead of doing 5 potatoes, I do 1 potato. Okay? And then I'll do just this. And I've started doing it, trying to force myself, because what I found is so many people out there that are just 1 or 2 people in the home. And when I'm fixing something for 14 people, it's too much. A big crock pot, a 12-quart crock pot is too much. And but I think there's a big need for being able to take and do something on smaller portions.
My wife always watched these cooking channels, and I'd come home from work, and I'd be like, I'm not watching that stuff. I'm not watching that. We're going to watch the History Channel. We're going to watch the news. We're going to watch Hogan's Heroes or something. And I turn the channel now.
Right.
That's all I watch. And I want to learn how somebody else does it.
Yeah.
And what got me really into this, I watched somebody make bread. And I got this crazy idea in my mind. I said, I can do that. Mm-hmm. And the first time I tried it, they were really, really good. Well, my dough rose just right. I done everything right. And I said, well, that's good. Let me see if I can make it better.
Right.
And then from then on, every time I try to make it, I try to make it better.
Yeah. I think, I tell you what, I'm getting ready to start cooking right now. Is and I've done it a while back, and I quit for 6 months or longer. I want to go back to cooking casseroles.
Yeah.
I love making nice casseroles, and I enjoy that. But I'm going to go back to trying to fix some casseroles and different things like that. But I don't know. I enjoy it along. All right. So we've covered important stuff. All right. Now let's talk about marriage. Are you married?
I am.
All right. Is that working out okay?
She says it is. I guess it is. I mean,
well, I mean, I try to be careful with that question.
Look around.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
Right.
Okay. So, how long you been married?
21 years.
21 years.
Yeah.
Man, that's good. Mm-hmm. That's really good, ain't it?
Yeah. She works at Sam's. Enjoys working.
Yeah.
And as much as you can enjoy working.
Right.
And we live a house that I had built. I've been there for 22 years. Mm-hmm. And got quite a bit of property, but it's mountain property, which I like. It's, we just let nature tend to it. I can go out and walk on it, or ride on it, or whatever I want to. And game everywhere, squirrels and deers and bears and whatever else is out there. Yep.
Well, tell me this, and what do you think makes a good marriage?
I think you need to have, God in your marriage, and you got to have peace and understanding, listening. You got to understand both have roles, and they both have boundaries and borders. And one of the first things I told my wife when we got married, I said, marriage is kind of like Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in our marriage stays in our marriage.
Yeah.
Everybody else don't need to know your business all the time.
Yeah.
And not saying there's any bad business there, but still,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
And that way you don't have the outside sources constantly judging you and trying to fix you all the time. And I think it's a lot of problems people have in marriages is somebody else is trying to fix their marriage when the marriage really ain't got much wrong with it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I found, I've been married 42 years, okay? One thing I found my wife has started doing, and I tried to talk to her.
Didn't you?
Yeah, I was just a baby. She tricked me. She come from the city, and I was in the country, and I was kidding around one day about getting married. Next thing you know, she had me. But it just happened. So what I think though is she's gotten out. I think a rule should be made in marriage that after a husband says something, there should be an amount of time before the woman says something. Because what I've got now is when I say something, Janice starts right into the conversation right after I say something. And she usually to give me advice. And I told her, I said, we need to have like a 5-minute span. Like when I say something, you wait 5 minutes before you say something. That gives you time. And she hadn't agreed with it all one bit. She hadn't agreed with that.
I seen a really interesting meme that made a lot of sense. If you would just stop her and tell her, this is the way my mom does it. She'll listen to you, and she'll learn from it.
Yeah. The alimony would be, I would have to, there would be alimony, I'm sure.
Yeah, Mama does it this way. Maybe you need to think about it and start doing it this way.
I think there are things, man, it's a marriage, and I love when people say this about the marriage being 50-50. I said, what's a bunch of junk? It's 100-100.
Yeah.
I tell you what I found out, and I'm going to ask you this. All right, when we talk about marriage and being a better husband, okay, I've worked in the last few years trying to be a better husband, okay? One thing I try to do is I make sure I pick up everything I can pick up. I don't leave a thing laying around.
Right.
You know, I make sure that my clothes, my stuff, my Pepsi can, okay? You know what I mean? I don't leave a thing. So what if we're today, if we got you down, now your wife wasn't here, or maybe she was here, and we said, now what could you do to be a better husband? What could you do to be a better husband? And if you think you're perfect, it's okay.
I mean,
because I'll ask her. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I might have to keep her away from you a little bit. You know?
If you want it to be a better husband, if I said today, you said this is the only thing I think I need to do, John, or this is what I need to do.
I guess you kind of, like the Bible says, you need to be slow to speak and quick to hear. You know, and a lot of times, like, you know, we need to kind of relax, think things through before we say things.
Now, are you saying you need to relax?
Since she's watching,
so you're because your head's in the ground,
yeah.
And I get you go into preacher mode on me there.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you see when we say this is what I need to do, you know, I might need to slow down, or I might need to be slow to speak.
But we're all in this together. That's when I use we.
See, I like that, you know. And when I interview preachers, they change gears on me. Okay, yeah. They go into preacher mode, and then I said, no, this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about if you search your heart. Search your life and said, this is what physically. And I get some people come to, well, we need to pray more, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, do you pick up your underwear? I mean, do you vacuum? Do you ever wash dishes? I mean, what do you think you could do?
This made me excited, okay? About a week ago, I did 2 loads of laundry.
I
had to get my son tell me how to turn it on and everything.
Right, I like it.
I got 2 loads of laundry. And listen, I took them out of the dryer.
Okay.
I folded them.
Shoot.
Put them away.
Folding them.
Yeah.
I haven't done that at all. I've never done that. I mean, I've just.
Now, where I come from, we say doubled.
Doubled. Yeah, I've never done that. I've never folded clothes. I don't ever remember folding any clothes. I can't. The washer, she won't let me wash. Now my wife I can take these pants off, and I'm telling you, they'll be washed and back on the shelf before the morning comes. She's set on that stuff when it comes to washing, and I really don't understand that washing machine completely, how it works, you know. But she washes the dishes. We don't have a dishwasher. She washes the dishes when I cook. She wants to wash them because I don't think I do real good, and so I think she likes to wash the dishes. But I really try to make sure that I'm helpful, you know, and respectful toward her. And I think that's tough.
You know, like you were talking about, marriage is not 50-50, it's 100-100. You remember back in the 70s, the little Roadrunner looking thing that would dip up and down into the water.
Yeah.
That's marriage. You know, you got to keep each other, you got to feed off each other, supply for each other, and just keep each other going. Yeah. Tipping up and down, and that bird will do that about all day long, you know. And instead of balance and hold even, you'll be constantly working. The marriage is work. It's something you got to work really hard at, and you got to flatter each other. You know, what was I'm getting back to preacher mode again. The Bible says when talking about God, yea, when I am weak, He is strong.
Right.
That's the way marriage is. Where you're weak, Janice needs to be strong.
Yeah.
When Janice is weak, you need to be strong. And y'all need to flatter each other and make each other strong to where y'all can become one.
Yeah. You know, she points out to me sometimes that I'm very, she says I live in my laxy-daisy world because I'm very narrow-visioned.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I don't, and she looks at things in a broader stroke. And that helps me a lot because it keeps me in line in things. And she'll back up and that, not only she do that, all my kids want to do it all at the same time, but they focus me, you know, because I'll get off focus, and it's exactly right. They should be there to help each other.
Yeah, I can hang out with one of my friends one day, and she'll say, "How are they doing?" And I said, "All right, I guess." You don't know? No. Seemed all right. Well, you was with him all day.
Yeah.
Didn't you talk? Yeah, but not about how he's doing, though. Yeah. You know, the male mind and the female mind just works so different about things. And, you know, we're kind of concentrating on right now, getting this done right now, and they're seeing more broad. And,
yes, sir.
And that's what it takes.
I agree 100%.
You know, you got a provider and a nurturer, and it's what it takes to make a great family and a great home.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes I see people that are not like that. I'll see two crazy people, and I'm glad they wound up together instead of ruining anybody else's life. Yeah. And we've all seen nuts get together.
Drama lovers. People just love drama.
And it's all right, because I know people like drama. Okay, and if you like it, you sort of search out somebody else that likes it, and then they can get together, and it works out pretty good.
There's people that will poke at you and poke at you and poke at you, and you're trying to be the man, and you're trying to be cool, and you're trying to be the bigger person. He'll poke at you until finally you say stop and get back onto them. Then they're happy as can be.
Yeah.
And that's all they wanted was to get you upset and get you riled up, and then everything's okay.
Yeah.
Then they're happy.
When you think about changes in the world that we live in, and I know we can talk about that changes, but what do you see as changes? What things stand out to you as changes in the world that we live in?
I think the world we live in today, the things that was normally done in the darkness is being brought out to light. Things that was normally hidden is now being celebrated in a lot of ways, and got it to the point to where personally I just want to stand back and get away from it, and have no communion with the world. And there's a lot of things going on in the world today, but there's always hope.
Yes, sir.
There's always possibilities for better, and the ones who, the quiet minority or quiet majority, would just stand up and say different. The ones who's been behind the scenes, and that's actually really the backbone, controlling everything. If they would just stand up and say, hey, this, we want truth, we want everything to do right.
Well, and I think too that when we talk about our life and talk about changes, we know bad now so quickly. Things that are happening in the world, we see the bad stuff. And I'm like you, this has always been there. Okay? Can you imagine how cruel the world has been?
Right.
When we think about the Old West, or we think about all these things out there, man, there's been child molesting, there's been rape, murder, killing.
Forever.
This has always been there.
Always been wars and rumors of wars.
If we look back on this thing, it's always, but what it is now is we know about it within moments.
There's always been earthquakes in diverse places. There's always been this going on.
Yes, sir.
It's just an average, ordinary day, and that's when God can come back. It's when the return of the Lord can be is an average, ordinary day.
Yeah.
Just, nothing no different. And it's always been there.
Yes, sir.
But now you can just pick up your phone and get instant
know
gratification of knowledge right then and there. It's right there looking at you. Anything, any information you want to know. Somebody questioned today, what's the best study Bible to get? And I was like, an iPhone. Whatever your number. And anything you want is right there. You can Google it. You can go through Yahoo. Any kind of search engine you want and get every interpretation of the Bible that's been for the last 2,000 years, and you can study and talk to God about it, and then come to the understanding that the Holy Ghost will give you on that. Everything is so different today. You can see, no doubt, 200 years ago, if there was a shooting in California, you might not hear about it for a month,
right,
or several weeks anyway. And now you can watch it happen live right in front of you.
And I believe that's the speed of this thing. And this knowledge is transfer, and it's not even transfer of knowledge; it's a transfer of information so quickly that we get it now, and that has been the big change. I really believe that has been,
And information technology has become global. Supplies have become global. And being a history buff, the reason that Hitler, Napoleon even failed in Russia is they advanced beyond their communication. They advanced beyond their supplies. And they kind of left themselves out there on an island, and when it got cold and snowy, they couldn't get in there and resupply their troops or anything, and it was left out there. The way today is everything is instant.
Yeah.
When you go to McDonald's, if you have to wait over a couple of minutes, if you pull up that window and they said drive ahead, you're mad.
It's supposed to be 60 seconds, no more. No, your drive-through time should be 30 seconds in that drive-through. And now I use my app, and my order's waiting on me. You know what I mean? And it's, but my grandson said something a while back. He said, I'm not watching anything short anymore. I'm not watching anything on my phone or anything that's short. He said, because studies have showed it decreases your attention span.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not watching a program that isn't at least 30 minutes long or isn't this long. He said, I'm not going to watch anything or look at anything that is, because what happened, and I think about how quickly our attention span has seems to go now.
Yeah, we binge watch series.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm going to watch 10 episodes in a day or something.
Yeah, right.
And if it's a new series, I mean, back when we was younger, something came out on Friday night, you had to wait till next Friday to find out if J.R. done it or not.
Exactly,
Or who shot J.R. or whatever.
Yeah.
And now, if it's a show now, if I had to wait till next Friday, I done forgot about it.
Right.
I'm watching something else, you know. So we watch those, we binge watch those series. And
I've gotten now to where I don't want to watch anything I haven't already watched.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, on TV, I haven't watched, I don't want to watch. All right, well, let's deal with this, okay? Let's talk about something that's important, too. Let's talk about money for a second. I know we touched on it some earlier on. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about money, and you could give advice to people, just to people out there in their life, because you have been successful, and you do live in your home, and I feel confident you pay your power bill. And you can put gas, you're living okay.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why. Now, here's the thing I know you can say. We can say, well, yeah, I pay my tithes and I give an offering. I understand all that. But there's principles that you have applied to your life financially that caused you to be able to live.
Yeah, I've done finance for 25 years. And I found out one of the craziest statements you'll hear from a customer is when you give them a payment, I'll try a few.
Right.
I'll try that.
Right.
Or I think I can do that. And one of the most successful things I ever heard from somebody is they showed up and said, I can do this amount a month, and that's where my payments need to be. Well, why? Because I've been practicing.
Mm-hmm.
For the last year, I have paid that payment to a bank account. I know I can make that payment, and I'm going to take the amount that I paid for the last year in that bank account, and I'm going to apply that to my down payment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, that is so impressive to be able to do that.
I told my kids, I said, listen, I've told him the same. I said, listen, anything you want to buy like that, I don't care if it's a Mercedes or a 72 Ford. I said, if you, for 6 months, see what that's going to cost you. Because there'll always be another vehicle. I said, but take that money and see if it's worth putting it back. And then at the end, you'll have that down payment. If you want it, or you can decide, hey, man, it's too hard. I just can't do it. But so when you look at your life, what are you saying that principle is that you've applied to your life?
And so many people do things off of emotion, and I try not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've learned my lessons.
Yeah.
I went through hard times. I went through bad times, and I've tried to learn my best to learn my lessons. And I decided I don't need everything. I don't need everything.
That's a big
You know, and before there was an iPhone, I didn't need an iPhone.
Right.
As soon as they came out with one, I just had to have that iPhone.
Right.
And that iPhone 6 was great.
Right.
But guess what?
Had to
My buddy down the road got a 7, man.
Yeah,
That 7
right.
does something different. I don't know what it is, but I got to have it.
Right.
You know, we try to get to the point to where we just don't have to have it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, try to be satisfied with whatever state that you're in. Try to never live beyond your means, and just be relaxed and you know, like you said, 6 months from now, you might not want that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And how many times have you had buyer's remorse that you bought something you're like, man, I don't know why I done that for.
Yeah.
It felt right at the time.
Right.
But as soon as I slept on it, you know, overnight or even a day or two,
yeah,
it didn't seem as important anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, how many things have you got that, you know, my kids have had toys. They never took out the box.
Yeah, absolutely.
They got so much for Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, we truly live in a land flowing with milk and honey. I mean, it's abundance everywhere.
Right. Yeah, my daughter's selling her house, and she's going through her house now, and there's stuff, and she's not lived there for a couple of years, but she's going through, there's so much stuff there that she finds that she had, or that she's seen, or the stuff that we got, and things that I paid for, and she paid for, and things that we got that we think, now it's just, if you could get a hold of that, like you said, and begin to say, hold on just a second. And if a person can do that at a young age, you know, and really say, listen, I'm going to discipline myself.
Yeah.
I mean, how much more we could do.
Oh, it's amazing.
And why? And then we say, why budget? Or why have that? Because you trade your time for money and your money for stuff. That's the simple principle of life. Your time you trade for money, your money you trade for stuff. So, but you trade for stuff in the end. Now listen, and I know you sell cars, but a car is only good for a man that sells it.
Right.
Okay. When you get a car, when an average Joe goes out here and buys him a car, we know what happens to it. Okay, it doesn't get worth more. Now, people think it's worth more when they come back in and trade it in. If they gave $30,000 for it, they feel like it's still going to be worth $30,000.
Right.
I mean, that's a common thing, all right? But when you look at things in life, so many people won't drive what they got. And I know I've done that. My cousin, we were sharing the other day about that. I mean, I used to be awful about that, okay?
Right.
I mean, I trade. But now, you know, I'm 65, soon be 66. I've got now to where when I'm looking at that truck out there, I'm thinking it's got 120,000 or 30,000, but it runs good. There's no problem. Got new tires, new battery. You know what I mean? And I look at Janice's car, 130,000. I think there's nothing wrong. So I'm going to drive them. You know, they're paid for. But if you can look at yourself and say, I'm going to hold on to this vehicle, or I'm going to do this. And
if you look at the people who do it, you look at hairstylists, they got the weirdest looking hair sometimes.
Right.
You look at a body shop or a mechanic, he's driving an old beat up Chevy truck down the road.
Right.
You look at a car salesman, he's driving a car until the wheels fall off.
Right.
And that's the way we do. We just keep on driving until the wheels fall off of it.
Well, he knows, you know that you know what it's worth. And to sell it is worth something, okay? I mean, I know that's good, and you have to have it, man. You know, I've said selling tires and selling cars, people are going to buy cars.
Right. If you sell something that's worth exactly what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I paid $30,000, I want $30,000 back. You know, it's worth what somebody else is willing to pay you.
Right.
For it.
Right.
You know what the definition of a good deal is, don't you?
What is it?
State of mind.
Huh. Yeah.
If you think it's a good deal, it's a good deal. No matter what you pay for something.
Right.
Whether if I sold you something and I lost $10,000 on it, and you was convinced in your mind that it was a bad deal, then it's going to be a bad deal.
Right. Makes sense, doesn't it? It really does when you think about it. Man, I think about that stuff a lot, and I don't know. I think about in people because we can look at that in life and be careful what we spend. And you know, I look at stuff, and I've shared this with people before. I'd love to have me a Chevrolet Spark. I loved it. I had one of them. Okay. But the transmissions don't last long. That old CVC transmission, about 80,000 miles.
Right.
But I loved it. But I've looked for me another one because that Chevrolet don't make them anymore for a reason, probably because they fall apart. But I'm going to go with the standard shift next time I get one. And I told Janice, I found them everywhere, okay? And I look at it, but I think about that $200 payment, okay? And I saw Janice, I said, you know, we could buy 2 tanks of fuel. And that'd put me to Myrtle Beach and back. And I could stay down there, and I get to think about stuff I could do with that $200.
Less insurance.
And I think, well, yeah, I don't have the insurance, I don't have the tags, and all that stuff. And I think about that sometimes. And so I fight the urge like that cinnamon raisin biscuit, same way I do with getting that car. I mean, I don't do as good with the cinnamon raisin, but I think about that a lot. Man. But if we could learn to control that, we could learn to handle that, how much better off we'd be.
And when you get older, you get wiser. I remember I started out in coal mining. I worked my 8 hours, and I wanted to go home because I was tired. If I'd worked more than 8 hours, I was getting time and a half. But I didn't want that. I didn't need that because I was living like the old guy said. Why do you just work 4 days a week? He said, because I can't make it on 3. You know, and I can make it on those 40 hours a week, and that's all I wanted.
Yeah.
I go off and start selling cars. I'm not getting paid for overtime, but I'm working 12 hours a day.
Right.
I'm coming in at 8 o'clock. I'm leaving at 8 o'clock that night.
Right.
Every single day, and loving it.
Yeah.
And then I got to thinking, you know, these extra 4 hours I'm putting in, that could have been overtime. You know how much more money I would have been making on that overtime?
Exactly.
But when you get older, you start seeing things differently. I went probably 5 years without taking a day off or a vacation, and missed a lot. A whole lot.
Yes.
With my children and different things. And
it wasn't good.
No.
It wasn't good at all to do that. You know what I mean? And if you had it to do over, I'd say you wouldn't do it. I'd say, I don't know. But I mean, you know, you miss a lot.
Right.
And we think and this is in the end, people spend what they make in most cases. Okay, if they make another $200 a week or something, they'll spend another $200 a week. And you only got so much time, man. I was thinking the other day, and I figured it up, and I shared with somebody, at 65, if I make it to 80, that's going to be a pretty good whirl if I make it to 80, no better than I am. I had like 5,472 days left. When you start putting your life into days, instead of thinking years, this is how many days I got, it'll make you treat your days different.
They pass by so quickly.
And you'll say, how I want to treat my day. Well, you get old, winter and summer and fall, these things move faster, it seems like.
If you think every morning when you're brushing your teeth, I'm brushing my teeth this way, the next morning doing it again, you'll start adding up how fast that's going by, and it passes by so quickly without you even knowing it.
Yeah.
I remember being in my 40s thinking, well, I'll make it to 50. Well, I'll make it to 52. Then I got there, and then I'm 62, and I'm like, wow.
All right, so let's take this. We've covered some, but in closing, I want to think about this. If you had to look back down the road at young Mike, okay, and you gave young Mike some advice, what would you give him advice? What would you tell him?
If you changed anything, the bigger picture might change. And I've thought to myself, what would you change in your life? What would you do differently? And there's a lot of things. Mostly, what I would have done is probably be nicer to people. And not that I think I've been mean to anybody, but I've probably been a lot nicer to. And don't take the, what is the old saying? Don't sweat the little things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as young people, we want everything quickly. Like I said, this building here, you would have just thrown everything in here, and you'd still been in there. When you get older, you want to kind of relax, think about things more, and get everything proper and in its place. And I used to let things bother me. I couldn't sleep if I thought somebody was mad at me.
All right.
If I thought somebody had something against me, I couldn't sleep. It just upset me like crazy. Then I got to thinking, as a man told me one time, he says, don't worry about things you can't change.
Yeah. Well, I've said this. I studied the habits of highly effective people one time for a year. And one of the big things I got out of that, life is only, and I've shared this before, life is only in two parts. There's two parts of life. There's an area of influence and an area of concern. And there's things that we can be concerned about that we can't really change.
Yeah.
But there's some things we could really change. And whatever attention we pay on that area of our life is what's going to happen in our life. If the stuff we really can be concerned about, and we really can influence and change, if we look at those things and give less attention to the other area.
About 30 years ago, I was at your church, Church on the Rock. 30 years ago, does that sound
That's about right.
You preached a message that I get a lot of credit for now, but I always give you the fine print. This comes from John Dash right here. You preached a message on power words. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
And I have lived off those power words.
Yeah.
I have been in situations with managers, and the guy with me would be in all kinds of trouble for doing the same thing I did, and I wouldn't be in trouble. And he said, "How come they don't get mad at you?" I said, "Because I don't fight back. I don't argue.
Yeah.
When somebody gets on to me, I just say,
Yeah.
And they get on to me again. Well, you get on to me again. What about that?
I said,
and then I use a Dennis Muncy, and I look at him and go, well, boy, what about that? and just, your response, the Bible says, let your response be yea or nay, all else is sin. And if you just take and not get excited about everything.
Absolutely.
Just relax. Somebody said, well, you so-and-so talked about you, and you were up preaching to them and smiling. I said, because them talking about me does not do any harm to me. It just harms them.
Yeah.
And it's okay whatever they want to say about me, because God knows. And so if I can just realize what goes on everywhere, the Bible says that we're hidden in Him. So if I'm hidden in Him, how's anything on the outside of Him going to be bothering me?
Yeah.
They can't see me. They don't even know I'm there, because I'm hidden in Him. And when we get to the point where we can just relax, man, if I knew that, I wouldn't have all this gray hair right now.
Well, I've had a lady straighten me up one time telling me what all I'd done wrong.
Yeah.
She was laying it to me. And I stopped her at the end. I said, ma'am, the first thing I'm going to tell you is I appreciate you taking time to be so concerned about me. And the next thing I'm going to tell you is now, some of the stuff you say about me is true. I mean, I ain't going to tell you that all that stuff is a lie. I mean, I'm not the best about stuff.
Yeah.
But not all of it is true. I said, some of those things you're saying are not quite as true as you think they are. But people get so tense and nervous. If you're not hitting me in the nose, you're not hurting me all that bad. I can take a little bit of the other stuff, can't you?
Right.
So if you told young Mike anything, you tell him lighten up just a hair bit.
Relax.
You relax just a little bit, take a deep breath, I'll share this with you in closing. And I've shared this before. I've shared this with people all the time. Are you a firecracker or a bullet? Same amount of gunpowder goes in a firecracker, goes in a .22 bullet.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is focus.
Right.
A firecracker will scare, explode, bring a little grin every once in a while, okay? But a bullet can feed a family.
Right.
Okay? So what we have to decide in our life is what we're going to do. Are we going to have direction? Are we going to focus this energy we got today? How are we going to do it in our life? And I think that's a challenge.
So we're just going to talk about it.
Are we just going to do that?
Just make noise.
Yeah. A month or so ago when I started doing these interviews, I didn't have any idea about, I said, I just told my wife, I said, I believe there's people out there like you that have wisdom and have words of encouragement. And I feel like it's my job to get that to other people.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's the simplicity of what I'm talking about. I just want to transfer that information that you have, that part of your life that will help somebody else with their finances, with their marriage, with those things. And I think that's important.
Right.
And I enjoy it.
Yeah, as far as finances, I've heard it from so many different angles. I had a man who was a millionaire tell me one time, he says, you never spend your own money. And I've had people in the same situation saying, you never borrow money.
Yeah.
But I think the best words I ever heard was work harder or work smarter, not harder.
Exactly. My grandson told me that the other day when he was carrying some stuff in. I had him doing some stuff, and he said, I'm working smarter, not harder. I said, okay. But it's the truth, too. I mean, and I think what happens is I read a book on a guy one time who lived for 30 years off $130,000. He lived for 30 years. And the focus of it, what he said was, if you'll concentrate more on what goes out than what comes in, most people will not concentrate on what goes out. They're always trying to get more in. Yeah. And if we will take time and do that, say, hold on just a second. When I look at stuff, and I think, and I've got family that I talk to when I'm talking to them about their finances. I said, let's take a look at what's going out. I'm not concerned about what's coming in.
Right.
Let's see what's going out. And if we could save this money here, we can cut this expense there and do this. It's like switching internet companies. I had Spectrum forever, okay, and then I had Verizon phones, okay, and this is not a commercial, but I mean, so I had this forever, and it kept getting higher. My cell phone did with Verizon, kept higher and higher and higher, and my cable bill kept getting higher and higher and higher. And I said, gee whiz! And all of a sudden, I told my wife, I said, we're going to have to make a change, and we went to another company, and we've been there for, I guess, a couple of years now for like just a flat $50 a month for our cell phone. And I thought, we saved we saved a couple $100 a month by the time we got done with it, but I didn't want to make a change. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to make a change, but sometimes you got to look at stuff to say, what am I going to do? I'm going to make a change in my life.
Sometimes it has to hurt a little bit.
It does. Well, I'll tell you what, I appreciated Mike being with me, and he's a friend and a blessing, and he'll bless you if you ever see him out there. He's a blessing. Does a lot of cooking and videos. If you see those, go on there and tell him what he's doing wrong. Say, Mike, I think you need to straighten up.
Need all the help I can get.
You're doing it upside down. Can you cook on an electric stove?
Yeah.
I can't. I have to use gas. I cannot cook on electric. I can use the electric oven, but electric stove throws me all off.
I prefer a crock pot, though.
Oh, I love Instapot. I use Instapot a lot. Crock pot. I've got all sizes of everything. I mean, you know how that is. Pots and pans. I'm very finicky about my pans. And Connie, Connie, who's been with me forever, for 30 years.
Right.
For Christmas, she bought me these set of pots and pans at Ollie's. Okay, and I said, "Oh Lord, I don't want. Why did she get me these? I'm not going. I can't. I'm very finicky about my pans and how I want them." And I swear they've been the best set of pans, and they're not. And you say, I've seen pots and pans for $2,500 for a set, but this set I've used them. They wipe up good. Yeah, I made the change.
I gotta have some. No,
Well, all right. We appreciate you watching. You've been watching, and a lot of you wondered this and wonder what the heck's going on. We're in a shed. A shed. It's 8 foot by 10 or
a well organized.
Yeah. It has to
I'm
be.
impressed.
It's got all my children. Their inheritance is in here. It's circular sauce.
And they're gonna call everybody. We're gonna come in with the little blue tape.
They'll
put prices on everything.
They'll sell everything. I know they will. That's crazy. All right. God bless you. Appreciate you watching just from the shed. Adios.